First of all, good morning, guys. I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm trying to change the background to keep things exciting for you guys. Today, we're going to talk about ergonomics at home, nothing fancy. I'm going to just show you guys what I do. I'll talk about the basics, some of the principles. If there's time at the end, there's a product that I found that I would say is right up the alley of someone who's going to be doing this long term. But you don't need a product to do this. It can be super basic. So throughout the chat, if you guys have any questions, there's the bottom chat you could use. I want to start by also introducing Carmen, one of the physiotherapists at UTM. Come on and say hi, Carmen.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. Yeah, I've been at UTM Sports Clinic for about 7 years now, and it's been such a great pleasure to work with such a wonderful team there. So yeah, thank you, Jeremy, for doing this ergonomic session. These webinars are quite informative and practical, and just some tips that you guys can use when you're at home. Yeah.
So throughout this, because I'm kind of learning as I go here, it gets hard to manage people, the question in the chat box. So if you have any question throughout this, instead of unmuting yourself, I want you guys to just type in the chat box. And then Carmen will bring the question to me, or she'll answer it herself. We'll share the workload there. So this is our fourth one. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to be it's on Wednesday. We're going to be talking about pelvic floor with Christina. So if you know anyone that has a problem with incontinence, has had a child in the past, a prostate issue, make sure that they get notice that that's going to be happening on Wednesday at 11 a.m. So with no further ado, we're going to start off by just talking about the basics. I'm just going to sit here and talk it through. After that, I'm going to point this camera towards a standing option and then a sitting option using my own home. And it's like, I whip this together in literally 5 minutes. Anyone could do this, very easy. So this is what I tell people all the time. It's kind of funny talking about ergonomics. It's one of those things that I touch on with just about anyone that has a computer related job at home. And I almost go on autopilot and I make it happen in 5 minutes, and then I wake up and I continue the session. That's usually how it goes. I want you guys in the chat box to rate your ergonomic setup 0 through 10, just so I know how important this talk is. I want an answer from everyone. 0 through 10. What's your ergonomic? How would you rate your own ergonomic setup? 3, 6, 7, 8.5. 8.5, Christy, you should have been doing this with me. Not bad, 0, okay. So we'll just start with the basics so that you just have a bit of a knowledge base. And then once you guys have the knowledge base, I'll be a little bit more practical so you guys see what I have set up. So starting with the computer and the computer monitor, the way you want to have, and you'll see this all after, so don't worry about taking notes. And by the way, with these webinars going forward, I'm going to be throwing them all on YouTube. So you don't need to video it. You don't need to do anything. You can find it on YouTube going forward. So don't worry about that stuff. So the top of the screen should be equal to your eye level, which is not the case here because I'm trying to get the camera to see me. But if I'm eye level, this would actually be up to here. Completely different look. So top of the screen should be equal to your eye level. That's number one. If we're going to work our way down, your elbows should be at 90 degrees. I know you guys can't see that now. 90 degrees, I think we all know what that is. So they should be completely by your side and your hand should land on the keyboard. That just makes it so you have the least amount of muscle activation while you're in that position for maybe 8 hours a day. So now we got computer monitor, top of the screen is eye level. Your arms are by your side at 90 degrees. Your hands just land on the keyboard. Okay, those are the two most important things. Number 3, your position on the chair. What I find I see people do, and I'll show you guys in a second, is they sit on their chair, their back is using the backrest, but their tailbone, so that part of your bum, that little bone, that little tail, should be right at the back of the chair. A lot of people leave a little space, even 1 or 2 inches, and it creates a C curve, with the very end of it at the C curve being your head forward. If you shove your bum at the back of your chair, you're going to see it's a little bit easier to be upright like this. So that's the second thing. I find it's a little bit hard to do that sometimes if you have a leather chair because your bum will slip forward. So keep that in mind as well. the fourth thing, going right down to your feet. Right now I'm on a high chair, so my feet are resting on part of the frame of the chair, which works well for me. If you're at a computer chair or a kitchen chair and you're on the shorter side, you'd want to have a footstool so that your legs or your feet aren't dangling. Those are the very basics. Now, the basics are important, but I think the majority of people know most about the basics. On top of that is obviously postural awareness. You want to envision like there's a string pulling the top of your head. That's the posture that you should be aiming for. If we're gonna like really dumb it down to something that everyone can relate to. More important than everything I just said, because everything I just said, if you get in the zone and you start doing your work, because you got stuff to get done, you got money to make, whatever the case may be at your job, you remembering this talk is unlikely to happen. It's just there's too many things going on. So what I found that works the best with patients by a long shot, if I was just going to give one piece of advice, would be set yourself a posture reminder that is going to remind you every hour. So it's like me coming behind you and tapping the back of your shoulder and get up.
We have a question from Christine here, and she asked, should knees and hips be 90 degrees also?
You got it. Yes. Answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the other thing I might add is keep your keyboard and your mouse close to you, because if you're having to reach forward, then chances are they'll likely encourage like that forward head posture that Jeremy was talking about. So
and plus it's impossible to use your backrest and have your tailbone at the back of the chair and lean forward reaching. So yeah, keyboard positions, like I said, should land in your hands when you're at your side at 90 degrees. But that's a good point. So just to finish that rant I was on, because this is when I'm giving an ergonomics talk to someone, even one-on-one with a client, this is where I slow down and I emphasize what I'm about to say is the posture reminder piece. We all have Task Manager, Google Calendar. Half of us wear a device here that can vibrate every hour, something that's going to be in your face like a pop-up that just says posture and then goes away so it doesn't affect productivity. I'm huge on productivity. You got to get your work done, but you want to do it with the best posture you can because you're doing 40 hours a week. It ends up being thousands and thousands of hours in the poor posture with your head forward. And then when you have your head forward, then it starts to affect some of the anatomy in the side of the neck that compresses some of the blood vessels, some of the nerves that goes into the hands and causes whatever it is, carpal tunnel, wrist injuries, elbow injuries. This is all coming from the brachial plexus, a bunch of nerves that go down, rotator cuff problems. And then in the low back from that slouched position, you got some sciatic nerve problems. You could get hip flexor. There's so many different things. So that's why this talk goes really well with what I was saying last Saturday about the 4 stretches, because you can kind of marry the two. And then I think next Saturday, Natalie's going to come on and do some office stretches that are something that you can break your day with. Because I understand that not everyone's going to want to go on the floor in the middle of the day, especially if they're at the office, even if they're at home because they're in the middle of their day. There's a couple of stretches you can do just in your chair or in a doorway that we'll go over. I think it's next Saturday. So posture reminder, remember to do that, guys.
We have another question from Ling who says, if I have 2 screens, should I face one of them?
So if you have 2 screens, so if you have 2, by the way, Carmen, can you see me? Am I on the speaker view right now?
Am I on speaker?
No, can you see me when I'm, because I can only, okay. So if you have 2 screens, you want them to be like this. So you try and make them centralized. A lot of people who are using 2 screens will use one 80% and one 20. Then you put 80 in front, 20 on the side, and 20 goes here 1 or 2 weeks, and then goes here 1 or 2 weeks. Does that make sense? You're keeping things as balanced as you can. That works well. I've had people who've come in with like chronic neck pain, and it's like all tight on this side, and then I'm late to the game, and I'm like, what's your ergonomic setup like? And they're like, well, I have 2 screens, one here, one here. I'm like, what's the ratio? Well, they go 50-50, but so they spent half their day like this. And then all we did is we switched the computer to the other side, and I didn't have to do any more manual therapy on their neck. So really, that's a really good question. So we got the posture reminder. Now I'm going to show you guys just a quick look of what I have set up here. So this is my little seated arrangement here. Give me a sec. Can you see that, Carmen?
Yep.
So I'm just on the island in my kitchen here. I just took a bunch of books.
I used to have my mirror.
Hey guys, if you are not, can you guys mute yourselves?
Yeah, I'm muted.
You're muted. I can hear you. I think everyone can. Okay, thank you. So this is my ergonomic setup at home. So I have my arms are not perfectly at 90 because I'd be going through this piece of furniture. So it's not perfect, but it's as close as I can get it. My hands land on my keyboard. If you look at the top of the screen, it lines up with this tablet. It's on an angle. You wouldn't want that. This is not my device that I use. The device that I'm using is filming me right now. So the little tricks, bum at the back of the chair. So I'm using the backrest. I'm going to bring myself a little bit closer, 90 degrees here. My foot's rested on the frame of the chair. And then that string that's pulling me up. And then I could do my work from this position. That's my first one. For a stand-up desk option, can you see that, Carmen?
Yeah.
So same thing. I got a couple boxes. I got my laptop up. So, and then you see my keyboard's a little bit lower so that my arms could be at 90. I'm still using my laptop here. So you need a 2-tiered format if you're using a laptop. And then down here, I have a shoe box so I can put one of my legs up on there at a time. So if I'm standing for like 1 or 2 hours, it's going to hurt your back as well. So you want to alternate your hip position so you can put one leg up at a time. Just place you guys here. So the way I tell people to organize their day. So if you're like, well, do I sit? Do I stand? I don't know how to manage this. There's two ways the two easiest ways that I tell people to do it, especially if they're in an office environment. From home, it's easy to switch back and forth often. I usually say start your day in standing, stay standing until you're tired or you're sick of standing, and then sit till lunch, have your lunch, start back standing in the afternoon until you're tired of standing, and then sit back down. That's the easiest way to do it. I wouldn't say it's the optimal. I'd say optimal is you go back and forth 1 hour, 1 hour. And then you throw in some walks in there. You throw in some easy stretches that you can do right at your computer desk. That's what I would say. That's what I tell people to do. I think that works the best. You guys have any questions so far? No, we're good? Okay.
Just the 2 so far.
Okay. Now I'm just going to show you guys real quick. I'm going to share my screen. I told myself I'd keep this as basic as I can. I'm showing you the most ghetto version that I can because I want this to cost nothing. But some of you guys are like, well, I'm going to be working from home after this is all done. I want to have something even better, something that can go up and down, something a little bit fancier. I'll show you guys an option that I came across that's actually pretty good that fits all the criteria. Just give me 1 sec. Carmen, tell me if you can see it. You see that, Carmen?
No, it just says, yeah, now I can see that.
So this is, and again, you guys don't really have to write this down because I'm going to flip it on YouTube. This is Varidesk. So this is your most basic one, but notice how it can go from a low position if you're going to sit. Let's say you're doing your sitting portion of your day like this, and then it can go up. Now, if you're using a laptop, you guys got to think about getting a separate Bluetooth keyboard. Notice the legs that are right here. If you straighten those out, you could throw a laptop. Now you see the desktop, it's higher than a laptop. You put a laptop on there, it's 4 to 6 inches lower than that. So you could put your laptop on there, a couple books, straighten out those legs, and then you'd have a good setup for a laptop as well. So this is a nice basic one. It's $400. I also looked at, there's some ones for the double monitors. If people are interested in that, this is the best one that I've seen if you're interested in that. Do you need to do this? Definitely not. I'm not going to do it, but I also don't work on a computer for a living. So I just want to give you guys multiple options.
We have another question here. It says, what's the theory about kneeling chairs that claim to tilt your pelvis forward? Do they work?
What do you think, Carmen?
And yoga ball chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard about yoga ball chairs where, you know, sometimes people with a lot of back pain, they find that with the yoga ball, it kind of helps to keep them a bit more fluid, less stiff. So yeah, I think if that feels comfortable, but again, there's no backrest on the yoga ball chair, right? And I think having a backrest is really important to keep your muscles relaxed. Otherwise, they're going to be on all the time and you're going to get muscle spasms eventually.
Yeah, I like the idea of a ball to sit on. I think if you attempt that and you go full time on that, you're going to fail. I think if you slowly integrate that into your day, the same if I was going to get someone to do anything different, change their footwear, change their seating arrangement, your core muscles are just not trained for it, but it's easy to implement. You just start with the first half hour of your day and then the first hour, and then you do it in the morning, same idea till you're sick of it, and then after lunch until you're sick. Eventually your core muscles will adapt and you'll be able to spend a larger portion of your time using a ball. I do like that idea. It's hard to slouch on the ball. You'll be less stable. So it's a great idea for sure. You'd probably need a 65 centimeter ball if you're going to use that, just to keep that in mind as well.
We have another question from Karen. She asked, can you explain the use of a footstool? Is there a benefit?
A footstool, it depends on your height. So when you're sitting down, if your feet aren't flat on the ground, like you're tiptoeing a little bit, or you're having to and this is keeping in mind when the tailbone's at the back of the chair. So if you're having to scoot forward, then anyone can get their feet flat on the ground. But if your bum's right at the back of your chair and there's still some wiggle room, you want to fill up that space so that your feet are flat and that your knees are at 90 degrees and your hips are at 90 degrees. Good. Shoot me some more questions, guys. What do you think, Carmen? Is there anything I'm missing from that? I mean, those are the very basics. I'm going to show one more thing that you can do. And this is if you're like, well, I don't have a footstool and I want another option. This it might tire you out a little bit, but it's another way to sit that works pretty well. I'm gonna have to hold the monitor for this, but you can see the chair here, right? If I was sitting on the very edge of it and I was keeping a very upright posture, I could still work like this. But if you're not using your backrest perfectly with getting your tailbone at the very back, then you got to keep in mind that this won't work. Sitting on the edge like this doesn't work. It only works if you want to do it active like this. And then yes, I could do part of my day like this until you're tired. And then you're going to eventually need to go back. If you're doing like days that are 8 or 10 hours, you're going to need to find one passive option. Which is
Jeremy, go back to the chair and just demonstrate your pelvic tilts. So someone has asked, what about pelvic tilting while sitting, good or bad, back to the kneeling chair? So I think in terms of pelvic tilt, you want to try to keep your back in neutral, right? If you're tilting too far forward, like APT, like kind of what Jeremy's doing, that's APT, slouching, right? That won't be good for your back. But let's say with the kneeling chair, if you're tilted forward, then that also isn't good for your back because now you're putting excessive curvature through the lumbar spine and that's creating compression on the joints in the back. So you want to try to find something in the middle, like kind of a neutral spine, like what Jeremy was saying, how imagine there's a string pulling the top of your head up towards the ceiling. And you want to keep like a vertical line between like the ear, shoulder, down to the hip. That would probably be the most ideal position to be in.
And I mean, that's why I use the analogy of like the string on the top of the head. This stuff gets complicated if you're like, well, what's neutral spine look like? Like everyone's is a little bit different depending on your anatomy. But like, just to kind of bring it back to the basics here, this is obviously a slouched posteriorly rotated pelvis. This is an anteriorly rotated. This is too much. No one's going to sustain this. This is too hard. It's somewhere in the middle. So that's why if I use this analogy, this is going to bring me up to the right place every time. arms by your side, working this way. So this is an option. It doesn't always have to be bum in the back of the chair. This is a nice active position. It's just most of you, including myself, can't sustain this all day long, right? So you want to have this option too, bum right at the back, here, and nice and tall. But I'll tell you again, it won't work unless you have a posture reminder so that you have some external influence that's going to guide you towards that.
Christy asks, is it not recommended to stand all day, even if you ease yourself into it and get used to it?
I think you can stand all day. I don't think anyone would be able to do that right off the bat. I know I couldn't. You'll do a lot better standing all day if you have some sort of, like, I'm literally just using a shoebox right now with my taxes in it. It's not hard. You can use anything, but you have to have one leg up for a little while and then swap so that your pelvis is exposed to different positions. Otherwise, you'll probably get like low back problems from just standing all day. There's listen, the best posture that you can ever have is your next one. You guys understand that? Meaning, like, it's got to be ever changing. So standing in one position isn't the best. Sitting in the best posture isn't the best. The best posture is walking because it's dynamic and it's moving and it's changing. Now, some people do the treadmill thing when they're doing their work on the treadmill. That's the next level. I'm not saying to go out and do that stuff. I'm saying keep in mind that setting yourself a posture reminder, just doing this is changing position. Going for a walk is changing position. Changing your setup from seated to standing is changing positions. Your best posture is your next one with all the little tools that I threw in there today to optimize it.
So we have two more questions. One is from Karen. Hi, Karen. I recognize your name, so I'm just saying hi to you. She says, I use a headset at work, but at home I use myself. Any tips for cell phone use and good posture? Cell phone is hard. Yeah,
cell phone's hard. It's this. This is the best option. Link to my cell phone. If you want to be honest, listen, I don't know if I'm gonna try and butcher my way through good posture like this. It isn't a thing. But getting these types of devices, doesn't have to be anything fancy. This one works too. It's got a little mic in there too. That works as well. So for cell phones, devices for sure.
If you want to use a speakerphone setting, someone mentioned that could also help too. So that's great. And then the second question is, how about sitting comfortably on your couch with your laptop in your lap? So not at a desk, not using a mouse or a separate keyboard.
Yeah. I think that's a tough one. I mean, we're all guilty of doing it. Who doesn't want to end their day with a laptop on their lap, the TV in front of them? But there's just no way of getting great posture. I think it's acceptable. I think it's okay to do that. I think we all do it. I just don't think your workstation should be associated to your couch. I don't think you'll be as productive, and I don't think your posture could be as good. I think you need to keep those separate. If I'm going to be honest with you, that's how I feel about it. It sinks in. It's that whole putting your tailbone to the back of the chair business doesn't work. The whole string pulling you up doesn't work on the couch. I don't know. I think you can end your day there and do your best, but it's just not. Listen, it's not ergonomically friendly. It's not designed to be. It's meant to put you to sleep or to relax you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other opinions on that, Carmen?
Yeah, I think having the laptop on your desk, it's not high enough either. So it's more encouraging your neck to come down, and you're going to start to feel it in the lower back of your neck probably about 2 hours later.
Yeah.
So we're going over tips about how to make your workstation at home when you have to work, 6-8 hours a day. How can you make the most of that position so you're not getting more sores and pains, right?
Yeah, if I was going to try and come up with a good setup that's going to be on your couch, then I'd be seeing all of you guys in the clinic after this is all done. It's not the point of this. So I'm not going to try and come up with an answer on that one. I would say just spend little time on your laptop doing that. Keep it on a setup that's a little bit more sturdy than a couch.
Mm-hmm. We have one more question from Karen. Should we use a mouse pad with a wrist support?
You can. And that's the thing. We could almost do an entire session here on like tools and different things that can optimize. You could totally use that. I mean, when it comes to the mouse, I just say you have your keyboard. It should be directly beside it. You shouldn't be reaching forward for the mouse. The rest, the details, yes, there's a million different ergonomic ones and whatnot. I don't worry too much about that. I just want the position of the mouse to be right beside the keyboard. Other than that, you can use whatever fancy stuff you want.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing is if you're using a wrist support, like you just want to make sure your wrist is in neutral, right? So you're typing and it's pretty straight. Sometimes if the wrist support's there, it might push you up like that. And that's going to create some carpal tunnel eventually in the future, right? So whatever support you use, you just want to make sure it's pretty neutral, straight on, kind of flat like that.
Yeah. And so we're talking neutral this way. We're also talking neutral this way. So none of this and none of this. Mm-hmm. Some people are going to type a little bit more like that, and they'll cause other problem. It should be straight and straight this way.
Mm-hmm. Another question. What are your thoughts on sitting on one of those seat donuts that are used for tailbone injuries? Can it be a proactive tool to low back injury or strain?
No. If you're using one of those donuts, it's because you need to, and it's because you either broke your tailbone or you strained it or deviated it to one side, and you need to offload it while it's healing. It's not something I would use for postural awareness or to improve your posture. That's something that some people need if they get an injury on their tailbone. But don't worry about using that if you don't have that problem.
We have one more question. I get pain on my left shoulder on holding iPhone for a long time. What are remedies? So it kind of goes back to the speaker, like put it on speaker or use your headphones. Yeah, try not to kind of hold it by your ear for, hours on end, that kind of thing.
And then remember this stuff goes with the exercise I did last time. If you're getting a lot of tension in your pec minor or something like that, you need to start doing those exercises, see if you can relieve it. If you can't relieve it, listen, if I'm on my phone and my shoulder's hurting, I mean, at some point you gotta have to consider talking to help, like a physio or something to try and resolve it. It's just the nature of it. Ergonomics will just not fix everything. It's just a lot of hours in a suboptimal position. If you're getting pain just by sitting on a computer, it means there's some things that are a little bit too tight in a few spots that are choking some of the anatomy, and you probably want to get a little bit of help with that.
Another question. Can you explain the benefits or disadvantages of having an armrest or not on your chair, or standing without an armrest?
Yeah, I like with or without. I like both, to be honest. As long as the armrest doesn't do this to you. Like if my elbows were resting on them and it hikes me up, so they need to be adjusted according to your arm length. But if your arms are by your side and the armrest is providing a little bit of extra support, no problems using that, with or without. It can be even better with if it's lined up perfectly, but you don't need it. You agree, Carmen?
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. And also, if you're gonna have armrests, you want to make sure that they match, your 90-degree elbow flexion height, because if they're too low, oftentimes people will kind of lean to one side when they're taking a break. And then now you're kind of in a side bend, and that's going to create some strain on your lower back as well. So if you can adjust the armrests to match the height of your elbows when they're at 90 degrees, then great. If not, it might be better without them, I think.
Cool. We've got a question. Can you tell us where to access previous videos, like the one with exercise mentioned as a game changer? Yeah, so the everything that I'm doing now and the team's doing, I'm trying to throw them up on YouTube. So what I did is for the exercise one, I just did a 5-minute summary and I threw it on YouTube. So if you want to find it, listen, I'm brand new to this stuff. I couldn't even tell you how to set up a link to go directly to it. But if you watch the promo videos that I send you guys on MailChimp before the little 2-minute videos that I do, if you click on those, there's a subscribe button at the bottom. If you subscribe, you're going to get a notice every time there's a new video. So if you go to that page, you'll be able to find it. I'll get better at describing how to find it once I'm more literate with how YouTube works and all this new stuff that I'm getting into. What else we got? What else you guys got for me? We got a little bit of time left. And if you guys want, at this point, because we're coming down to the end, the ones who do want to ask a question, you can, if you want, you can unmute yourselves and ask if you want. You're welcome. All right, guys, I think we're good. It's 11:30, so there's a few minutes left. I'm gonna hang out in case you guys have any questions. If you don't, this coming Wednesday, pelvic floor physiotherapy with Christina, incontinence, post-pregnancy, prostate issues, pelvic issues. If you know anyone that's relevant for, then make sure that you guys send the link to them so that they can get the relevant information.
One more thing, I get a neck pain. What do I do for that?
Wow, what a specific question. If you have neck pain and with something as little strain as looking at your computer monitor, like you should, like you could go basic and like just reorganize your ergonomics like I just helped you with. You can combine that with the exercises I did last Saturday. You can combine that with the exercise we're giving you next Saturday. That's free. And I'm going to give you guys as much free stuff as I can think of. If that doesn't work, I'd say you gotta check in and get some help with a physio. If any of you guys are having pain with some of these basics, it's so easy. Any of us could help you out, but I'd have to like look at your range of motion, your thoracic spine, your scalenes. Even in a virtual setting, I'll be able to pinpoint what you have that's out of symmetry, that's unstable, and get you to start working on that. So if you're having an actual issue, then call the sports clinic, and our phones are redirected to our front staff, and they'll book you in for a virtual care where we can help you with this kind of stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Looking good, Will. I like it. Thank you, Jeremy. It's very helpful rearranging my desk. I'm glad to hear it. Anyone have any questions regarding virtual physiotherapy, which is kind of new in the last 3 weeks? It's kind of the way we're reinventing ourselves to run the clinic now. And you guys have any questions with that, let me know as well. You can use that time to do that. We got about 5 minutes left. Or we can just, everyone can just stare at myself and Carmen and Will and whoever else has their camera on. Everyone should just put your cameras on. I want to see what everyone looks like this morning. You're welcome.
Hey.
Workstation, good. Thanks for the feedback, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for popping in, saying hi.
Thank you.
It's actually me. I'm using my daughter's computer because I couldn't get mine to load. I couldn't get Zoom to load on mine, so that's why it's.
What's up, Karen? How you doing?
Not much. So it was very informative. My desk at work is terrible when because it's a reception desk, and it's like granite, so there's no way you can change.
I know, like
it's too high. The keyboards are way too high. It doesn't have any drawers for keyboards or anything. So
some people are stuck with they're like, listen, I can't modify this desk, or I can't change anything here. And I'm like, well, listen, I'll always support people and write notes of what if I can try and challenge their employers a little bit to try and change their situation, because I always ask, do you plan on keeping this job for a while? Like, you gonna be doing this for a bit or no? And are you gonna retire in a couple of years? Because then I won't bother. But most people, 95, yeah, they're in this for the long haul. So I'm like, we gotta figure some sort of game plan, and we gotta communicate with your employer, and then figure it out. But yeah, it's tricky. Sometimes it's like you just gotta rely on the stretches and physio because the job ain't gonna change for you. It's tricky.
I got one question for you.
What do you got?
I'm holding the phone like this and doing the whole day, texting and all. This is the pain I get all over. So how do I leave the phone somewhere and type it? I can't.
Well, you gotta start using like the dictation feature where you talk into your phone.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That'll change everything. Because then you can hold it on your right hand instead of your left, talk into it, and then that's kind of solves your problem. That might not be enough, but if you do your right stretches and ergonomic setup and you throw that little trick in there, then that should do the trick.
Okay.
Cool?
Thank you.
We have another question from
Joanne,
Kat.
what's
She wants to know how frequently should one get up and move when sitting for a long time, every 20 minutes or so. I think it just depends on your body, right?
Yeah, I like every 20 minutes. I like every half hour. I mean, I don't think it's realistic. If I was, doing an office type job and you got stuff to do, you can't get up every 20 minutes. If I was the boss there, I'd be like, sit down, get back to work. What are you doing dancing around the office all the time? But so you got to make it reasonable. And then I try and keep it that way, keeping in mind like the employer, the employee, what's still going to be productive, but still healthy. I think once an hour, no one's going to complain about it. I think that's good enough. I think having the option of a stand-up desk is awesome. Not everyone has it, but if you can MacGyver it the way I just did it in your home office or at home. So we all have options. If you put your thinking cap on, you're going to figure it out. I did in 5 minutes. I think you guys can too. You guys have enough tools right now to figure it out. I know that. Morning, Karen.
We have less than a minute to go.
Yeah, so shoot whatever last questions you have. If this shuts down, which it will soon, then thanks for joining me. Gives me a reason to shower twice a week. So I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you.
By the way, it's the weirdest thing having this because when you guys come on, it's like everyone's muted. I can't see anyone's faces. It's like I'm doing this presentation in my home to nobody. That's why at the end I'm like, I like to bring the faces on so I can get some facial reactions. If I say something I think is even remotely funny, I'm like, I get no reactions. It's just blank screen. So I'm like, that wasn't funny.
That's true.
I know.
We were
Thank you.
Good. All right, guys. So Wednesday, pelvic floor. I believe next Saturday is quick stretches you could do in the office environment. If you find this helpful, share it with your friends. The more, the better. We're all enjoying doing this stuff for you guys during this time. So we'll see you guys again Wednesdays and Saturdays at 11 a.m. Cool?
Thank you.
Have a great
Have a
weekend.
guys. Thanks, Carmen.
Bye.
No problem.